Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Unstoppable Marketer podcast. With me, as always, is Mark Goldhart. Mark Goldhart, how are you doing?
Good. How are you doing?
Wonderful. How was, we had a good night last night. You and I?
Yeah, that deserves a little more explanation, but yeah.
Yeah, Mark and I went on a double date.
Yeah, we did have a nice night.
Yeah. No, we went to...
Thank you to our kind guests.
Yeah, we had a client take us to a jazz game. Floor seats. And
Floor seats, yeah.
It was the first time I'd ever sat floor seats.
I felt way more important than I am.
Yeah. I agree with that. Yeah,
That's how you feel sitting on the floor.
It was different to see these giant of men play basketball. Like, they look so normal on the TV. And then when you're on the floor, you're like, well, these guys are...
It's like, oh, that guy does have a 7-foot wingspan.
Yeah, these guys are like
that is
top
crazy.
0.0001% of the population.
Yeah, NBA players are just aliens.
Freaks of nature.
Like, I can't...
In a good way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not in a bad way. They're just... Like, I was watching that one guy. I can't even remember his name anymore, but his wingspan, like, he was probably like 6... I'd bet he's like 6'7", 6'8", wingspan of like 7 feet.
It's crazy.
And crazy athletic too.
Yeah.
You know, like this guy's...
Yeah, can you imagine like a wingspan of 7 feet? Like to pass around that?
Yes.
It's just crazy.
It's
like
crazy, yeah.
That's wild. Like to get around that human being.
And then that center for Portland was...
Oh, he had to have been like 7'3".
Was he like, what, 7'4", 7'3"?
Yeah, something like that.
He didn't even have
crazy.
to jump when he dunked. You're just like... And for those who don't know, I'm not a tall guy. I'm only 5'8", 5'9". Yeah. Like, I think officially I'm like 5'8.5".
Yeah.
Like, my wife is taller than me.
I think that I'm 5'10", but now I'm like wanting to maybe remeasure myself.
Yeah,
maybe I'm slightly over, maybe I'm slightly under.
And I'm not embarrassed by my height or insecure about my height, but like...
But you just standing next to one of those guys
are, you're like,
so
holy
little.
cow, these guys are giants.
Benson Boone was there as well.
Yeah, he
was sitting right next to us.
He's the new cat on the scene, right?
Yeah. Everyone.
He's the new tomcat in the alley, as they say.
as the 80-year-olds say.
The new tomcat in the alley.
Yeah.
When he walks around, all the girls get a little star-eyed.
Yeah. I sent a video to my daughters and they were way excited because my 12-year-old loves him. Oh, so that was it. That was there's the explanation. What are we talking about today? What do you want to jam about?
Well,
it's going to be a shorter episode today, guys.
Yeah.
We're just letting you know that. But we're going to just talk meat and potatoes like it's going to be juicy.
Meat and potatoes.
It's going to be a nice little pot roast.
Just get you ready for your Easter dinners.
Yeah, exactly.
Or lunches or brunches or whatever people do now.
Yeah, all the above.
What do? Do you like to do a nice ham on Easter? A little honey-baked ham?
We usually go to my parents and they do something, and I just honestly, I can't remember what they do.
They just do stuff?
Yeah, I don't think we do anything specific.
That's cool.
My kids, though, love Easter more than any other holiday.
Really?
Yeah, they really like when you ask them. Like if you ask my 6-year-old and say, what are your favorite holidays? She'll say Easter.
Really? Yeah. She loves the egg hunt,
over Christmas, which is interesting.
Well, it's more fun. It's like, springtime.
Yeah.
You get that first real vitamin D hit from the sun.
Yeah. I always loved Easter as a kid. My parents made Easter's really cool. But my parents were really holiday. Like, they were big time holiday people. Like, holidays were big in my house. And everyone was. I
think Christmas was big in my house, and that's kind of it.
No.
Yeah, Easter was fun.
Yeah, we were big. We went big on everything.
Yeah, we were not that. Yeah. But anyways, we have had some questions that we've seen through clients and, I think we've seen from people that listen. How do you do some tactics on a budget?
How do you do tactics on a budget? Yeah, because
sometimes we talk about content creation. It's like, okay, that's videos. Okay, we need a videographer, or sure, I can film it on my iPhone, but maybe that doesn't cost a lot of money, but that's a lot of time. Sometimes you're trying to script things out. Maybe you have never scripted something out. So it's...
Yeah.
Right. Think about how long it took you to make your first video.
Well, I mean, even still to this day, just about any TikTok video that I create takes me at least an hour. At least.
For the filming.
And it's not... No, probably for everything. Mm-hmm. No, I take that back. I bet that every one of my TikTok videos or Instagram videos, like Reels, take me between an hour and 2 hours.
Okay.
Between scripting.
Now.
Now.
But at the beginning, like, because a lot of people don't have experience creating.
Yeah, there's just a lot of...
Probably 3 hours.
Yeah. I mean, I am trying to do things a little higher. When I say higher quality, I don't mean higher quality like production. I mean
just trying to
higher
cut it
quality of
better
information. Versus like sometimes I used to just pull out my phone and say my thoughts, and that would take me 30 minutes and then 15 minutes to edit. But nonetheless, the point you're making is sometimes just even editing a video can seem overwhelming. Yeah. Whether you have the budget or not for it, you know?
So there's a time cost there and a mental cost.
An anxiety cost, yeah.
So, but there is a very nice avenue to explore some creative possibilities that sometimes gets overlooked. Kind of like the redheaded stepchild
of creative. Yeah, I think there's a big, what we're kind of trying to get at here is...
I can say that my wife's redheaded, so it's not...
Yeah. What we're trying to say here is we talk a lot about video, and everyone talks a lot about video, and for good reason.
Yeah, obviously, there's a good reason.
But I think that by doing that, not just us, but other people who just talk about the things that work the best, do disservice to static imagery and static ads and static content.
Yes.
That can also do very well.
Like, for example, we do have ad accounts where the best performing creative, and, everyone will be like, that's bottom funnel. It's like, no, actually it's not. But static.
Yeah.
We still have a lot of video happening, but
yeah.
I think sometimes people just forget that, hey, static is an avenue. And the reason why we want to talk static is because I think static also helps you hone in certain value propositions and ad copy and messages in a way that's a little more clear for you to conceptualize. I think sometimes if you're getting going on a low budget, like if you're trying to come up with a script, there's just so many more moving parts to a video, literally.
Totally.
That it's harder to maintain, like, okay, here's my hook, here's the message, here's like what would be considered like the hero content or the call to action, or here's the body. How do you mix and mingle all of it together? Well, a static doesn't have a lot of those components to it, right? Like, it's literally just an image, and you're going to have generally what's the main benefit.
Yeah, you kind of have to tie
feature.
You kind of have to tie the hook and the message in at the same time, and
you distill it down to a very easy to understand, very digestible.
Yeah. Whereas a video, you don't have to do that oftentimes. And so if you go at like average watch time of ads, sometimes people don't even get to the message, right? They might.
Yeah, most people don't.
Yeah, things might be interesting enough for them to click on it, but they may not totally understand the benefit that they're calling out or the problem that it's solving or whatever, because they only got through the first 6 seconds of the video.
Correct. And so, yeah, I think making a video, in theory, is not like that complicated of a process, but there's just a lot more to it than saying, hey, here is a static. I mean, for a great example is we have some ad accounts where a DPA, like a dynamic product ad, or they used to be known as just catalog ads.
Yep.
And we have our own things that we do to these dynamic ads. But there's dynamic ads that perform incredibly well with the right imagery and the right message.
Yeah.
And the right segments, obviously. Right, there's retargeting, but there's also prospecting ads that do really well from a catalog perspective. If you have the right imagery in your catalog, or if you're creating like a separate catalog, which are some tactics. But if you know who your customer is, I think static, and this is, we talk about testing all the time. Like static is so much easier to test statics, in my opinion, because it forces you to condense what you're saying into a very clear message, where sometimes with videos, it's a lot easier to ramble or get kind of caught in the weeds or thinking you can explain a lot.
Sure.
So we want to focus in on statics for this reason, not only because they're low cost, you can test a lot of variations with it, but it does help you distill a lot of this message into a clear voice.
Yeah,
that videos sometimes if you're just getting going, videos are really hard to do that with.
Yeah, static's a great way to craft the right, or to test the budgets and the right. And when we say statics, this is probably self-explanatory. It's just essentially imagery. Just for those people who it's an image that is not, moving. Okay. You have the ability.
And for the sake of this conversation, a GIF is still a static in our mind.
Yeah. Agreed. You have the ability to take 5 to 10 different messages, put them on the same static image to narrow in on what your audience reacts to the best.
Yeah.
And then you can very easily say, okay, hey, let's say this. I think we brought this up before with a swimwear brand that we've worked with in the past, who, as they dropped new swimwear for kids, they started calling out the bright colors and how that was a safety feature. Like, hey, neon colors, so you can spot your kids anywhere on a beach or in a pool, right? Like that's a very unique benefit. But you also could say like, hey, like the most trending colors ever. Hey, have your, best looking kids on the beach. Like there's, or it's a testimonial that says like, oh, I love this brand. They have the highest quality swim trunks for my kids. Mm-hmm. Right? Those are 4 different messages that you can put on the same imagery. And very quickly you can start to understand what's working. And then you can take that information and give it to the video team to say, hey, you know what landed the best was the spotting your kids fast and in a safe manner. Let's go create a bunch of video content there. And so it's a quicker way to test and get to that kind of conclusions, right?
Exactly. And it's a great way of just like testing out, I don't know if you'd call it like riskier messaging, but it's easy ways to test out what messages actually resonate with your audience, right? Yeah. Like for an example, I don't know, let's take, just because I saw a company that does this recently, let's take like maybe a men's testosterone supplement brand.
Yeah.
You can start playing as a company, right? As a marketing team or your branding team, you can start playing around with like, okay, like how do we like make this relatable to people, but also maybe that's not so bland and boring.
Yeah.
So a lot of people would jump straight to a video, but on a static ad, right? Like you could have something that has almost nothing to do with your product. Like you could just have like 2 peanuts and say something like, low T busting your balls.
Right.
With an asterisk where it says balls.
Right.
Where everyone knows that phrase, right? That idiom.
Right.
Like, and so that's how you can kind of throw together an ad that literally that's all stock.
Yeah.
Like you don't even need imagery for that. Like you can literally just throw that on an ad.
Yeah.
Start playing around with these ideas that might be a little bit, quote, more edgy and just see if that resonates with people.
Totally.
Right. And then you can start honing in on what the actual pain points are of your customers, right? Like if you're selling a supplement that's dealing with testosterone replacement boosting testosterone, there's probably a pain point. You know, there's studies out with people who, our generation has like the lowest T ever, I guess, compared to our father's generation.
Sure.
So there's like this pain point here that you can start playing with, like, hey, like maybe men aren't feeling quite up to like their father's standard. Like you can kind of almost start joking around like maybe that dynamic of like reaching your father's quote expectations. You can start playing around with the idea of, hey, T is a huge part of like men's health. So like, how do we start talking about like men probably don't feel as good?
Yeah.
And this is why.
Right.
Like this hidden energy thing that like they might be eating right, they might do everything right, but they're still feeling like a lag in their life.
Yeah.
So like what pain points can we like start playing with in our messaging?
Yeah.
And distilling that down into one-liners.
Yeah.
And that's really hard to do, right? Like comedians, I think if you watch a comedian, what they do so well is they distill these like everyday experiences into like one-liners.
Yeah.
And that's what makes a comedian a genius, is the fact that they can take these experiences that we can all relate to, but then they're distilling it into these like little one-liners and these little, like, you know, obviously it's a moving thing with a comedian, but that's what they do. Like these one-liners that they create, their punchlines is what they're called.
Yeah.
Is that distilling effect of that everyday experience. But like, you don't have to do every day. You're not trying to find everything unique. You're just honing in on your audience. Hey, what sucks about their experience and how do we make it better?
Yeah. Another cool example like that I saw recently of exactly kind of what you're saying into this like low T, you know, Hims is a huge brand right now, right? They had the big Super Bowl commercial that was like kind of controversial.
Yep.
But I saw 2 different ads for Hims. And like you said, I'm in this world of, I think men our age are like you said, they're experiencing the lowest T imaginable. So I think
the stat is like our age group is 50% lower than our father's age group in testosterone at the same age.
So whether you have it or not, I see ED ads all the time, like all the time. And I saw this very distinct AB version
even
of
more
testing.
now because health and wellness doesn't have the same targeting.
Yeah, yeah. And the first ad, and if my son's listening to this, just plug your ears for a second. The first ad says, for the best sex of your life. And then it's just Hims and the pill.
Yeah.
Right? And then the other ad is the exact same ad, but the caption, and these are statics, the caption was, for the best sex of her life. And so it's like, it's 2 completely same message, very similar messages, but
2 viewpoints.
2 different viewpoints. Now, if you had to create 2 different videos, that's so much more additional work to understand which of those is going to land better.
Well, and then there's also like, do you include in one video 2 people? Like,
is it the man's point of view? Like, hey, I used to like sex used to suck for me and now it's awesome, versus like, it's from the female's perspective of like, it was really hard for us to do it. And now
there's radio ads that do this all the time.
Things have never been
right?
better. You know what I mean?
Hey, my husband had this issue.
Yeah. So it's like, what is going to be better? Am I, as the consumer, am I going to be more interested in the selfishness of me? I want this better for me.
Yeah. Is the pain point more of like, I feel like I'm letting them down, or I don't like my experience?
Yeah. And what an awesome ad from Hims, because it was literally like,
it's just one word. Best
for me versus best for her. The ad was identical. I should have taken an image of it, but it happened within like the same day that I saw both of these. And it was like, hey, that was very genius. And now, depending on which is the winner, this goes back to messaging and voice, right? Because they obviously know who their target audience is men. You know, it's probably between the ages of 30 and 50, you know? I mean, obviously that goes much older, but their branding is much more to like the 30 to 50 year olds. And so now what's really cool is as they really start to see the winner on the statics, one, they can go then double down and create video content, but then you can take that same stuff and now you're going to plaster, let's say the pleasure for her is better than the pleasure for him. That's probably going to be their hero message on their homepage.
Yeah, it's a way to test the hero message on your homepage. And then it's also the way to say, hey, if this is working, maybe that gives you more ammo to say this is the video. This is the pain point that actually matters to them.
Yeah.
And of course, you're going to have some success with both.
Yeah. Now, a brand like Hims has probably unreal amounts of
well, they're putting more money into everything.
Investing, right? Yeah. So they've raised funds. But like these brands that are listening who are at this $100,000,
forget this all
$1 million,
the time.
even $10 million, right? Where putting a production together that's going to cost you $20,000, or some people, you know, we're working with brands right now who are putting productions together that are $250,000. You want to you don't want to just like do that based off of 100% trust in the creative agency that you're working with.
Correct.
You would like to have a little bit of data to say, this is what we're, you know,
these are the pain
best.
points that we know have had success.
So when money's limited and you only have $5,000-$10,000 or $20,000
or none,
how do you invest that into the right? Or when you don't have any money and you're a founder who's wearing multiple hats, time is your money. So how do you make sure that you're putting your time into the right creative pieces?
And statics are
awesome
for that.
Yeah.
And everyone forgets it too, because you're just talking about, I mean, there's some statics that we have seen that are literally, like we just mentioned, a stock image of something.
Yeah.
And a one-liner.
With a logo
and
at the bottom or
most companies don't even have one-liners.
Yeah.
Right? It's, hey, come buy from us. Like, this is what we do. But there's nothing clever. There's nothing interesting about the one-liner. But there's a reason why some of the most viral ads have been billboards.
Yeah.
Like, if you do a billboard the right way that gets attention, like that's funny, that catches the eye. I mean, a billboard is just a physical static ad.
Yeah.
And so I like looking at billboards because sometimes billboards are really underappreciated for just their creativity.
Totally.
And there's really bad billboards.
Yeah.
And then there's billboards that obviously are a little more personal. R.I.P. Julia Regan. But the 3 stages of grief for Julia Regan are: who is Julia? What is Julia? And now it's, I miss her too.
That's a Utah billboard company.
3 is where you just accept it.
Yeah.
I miss Julia.
I've even seen some billboards that or some static ads that they take a picture of their billboard because their billboards are so catchy.
We've done it.
Yeah. It's pretty.
Well, actually what we've done is we have
created fake ones.
Created fake billboards.
Yeah. For people.
Like fake billboard images.
Yeah.
And then run them as ads, and they've done really well.
Yeah.
So yeah, nonetheless, if you're having trouble with curating a funnel approach or just a path for your customer, and you feel like, hey, I'm trying these things, I'm not really getting like a ton of traction, a good creative reset, and this is something we do in-house too, is if we feel like we're not really nailing the message, the best thing to do is go back and start doing statics to hone in what your message should be. Yeah. And then from there, you can start creating better videos and cutting up better videos. But often people jump into I'm trying to say everything all at once. And even if you might just be saying a few things in a video, but if you don't say the right thing at the right time, right, or in the right way, it's hard to get a video to be as successful as it can be, if you know what the message is. So figure out what the pain points are of your customers, right? Like if you are let's just take an apparel brand, and I want to use an apparel brand because like it's so benign, whatever the pain point is going to be. Yeah. But guess what? Comfort did. You did a video on Comfort. The hoodie brand, yep. They're a hoodie brand. I have not done a ton of research into the quality of comfort,
Sure. Yeah.
but they're a hoodie brand. But what they did is they honed in on a very specific pain point. And that's what they started going at all the time, right?
Yeah.
So what was their pain point?
Pain point was like mental health, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like there's a mental health pandemic right now, epidemic. And so they created this hoodie, but they made it, I don't know, 15 ounces or 20 ounces heavier. Enough to say, hey, this is weighted. And there are studies that suggest that things like weighted blankets and weighted clothing can reduce anxiety and therefore help your mental health.
Everyone can say their clothing is comfortable
And high quality.
So like, that's not really a message that's going to resonate. Now, yes, they do a ton of UGC, which helps. But again, maybe you're not in a position where you can start seeding
That much product.
whatever amount of product they're seeding a month, which is probably a lot.
Yeah. Insane.
We have our guesses, but we won't go into that now. But they did hone in on this idea. Like, you go to their website, it's about relieving anxiety. It's about this comfort that actually helps you.
Yep.
Not comfort for comfort's sake all the time. It's, hey, we're going to relieve stress.
Yeah.
We're going to give you this like mental health benefit outlet, whatever you call it. So like, it's almost like creating a mental cue as well, right? Like, hey, I'm putting this on and I feel better because of the weight.
Yep.
But now they've already reached probably escape velocity where they don't have to talk about that message as much because most people know who they are.
Yeah.
So again, you're not in that space yet, but in the beginning, that's what they honed in on.
Yeah. And some people I've recognized have a hard time coming up with the ideas, right? Like, hey, what is the message here? One way you can do this is like, we use post-purchase surveys all the time to ask the one question, just what motivated you to buy? Like, why did you buy from us? Why did you buy this product? And you can just leave that as an open-ended question, and you will just start to get trends of people saying, oh, I bought this because it helped with my anxiety. You know, I bought this because the oversized hood. Right? I'm just making something up, right? And then you start to, see things where you're like, oh, we didn't really recognize this. Let's start having that. Let's test that message in paid ads.
Yep.
Right. So that's another way. Like, one, yes, you can get creative. You can use ChatGPT to help you come up with some of those creative ideas, but you can also just ask your customers what they think and start incorporating that messaging into your static ads, into your video ads as well.
Yeah.
That's something we love doing.
Absolutely. It is.
Yeah. That's a little cheat code.
Now, statics probably aren't going to work well on your feed, like from an organic perspective. So this is very much like an ads.
Yes.
Usually going to be an ads play.
Yes.
Just so everyone knows. Yeah. We're not advocating to go start putting your only static imagery in your feed.
Which is what you're all already doing anyways.
Yeah. But
out of no disrespect.
But figure out and don't sleep on
statics. Yeah. People don't talk about it enough.
Get creative, get funny. Like, they disappear so fast too, right?
Yeah.
So like, you can test messaging there that you might be like, I don't know if this is totally on brand. Go test it on a static.
Yeah. Yeah. And if people don't like it and people get offended and you're seeing comments that you don't want, like, just take it down.
Boom. That easy.
Easy as that.
Don't be scared. Okay, that's it.
I like it.
Ciao, ciao, everyone.
Simple, quick, and actionable. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Sorry it was so short, but we'll see you next week. Thank you so much for listening to the Unstoppable Marketer podcast. Please go rate and subscribe the podcast, whether it's good or bad. We want to hear from you because we always want to make this podcast better. If you want to get in touch with me or give me any direct feedback, please go follow me and get in touch with me. I am at the Trevor Crump on both Instagram and TikTok. Thank you, and we will see you next week.